Let's get started. How are you
How are
doing,
you, man?
Big
I'm doing
Meng?
good.
You are currently in Texas right now, I believe.
Yeah, man. Been in Texas for about almost 3.5, 4 years. It's been a blur.
Hmm.
Moved down here from Indianapolis. I call it Indiana no place because there's nothing good to eat there and there's no place to go. So my wife and I and the kids lived in Greenwood, which is south central Indianapolis suburb of. Moved down here for a job. Prior to that, I was in Minnesota. We were in Indy for about 2 years. Prior to that, I was in Minnesota, and it's been an interesting move. Texas is good. The economy's strong. Um, Little bit of hiccup in the business world, but it is what it is. So it's been all right. What about you, man? Well, your update. Georgia now.
Yes, sir. Just moved to Georgia from Minnesota myself, May. So just got done massage school for the last 2.5 years. So I'm hoping to kind of start my business a little bit down here, down south. Mainly just because a lot of my powerlifting coaches are in Georgia. So I was
Okay.
thinking maybe I can kind of hammer, some of the training and massage stuff for like sports and athletes down here, and start a branding down here. So that's kind of the plan and the goal. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Is there a
One
decent
step.
market for that? Like sports training, therapy, recuperation. I mean, that's what you're going after then?
Yes, sir. I mean, I think one of the reasons why I think that's a good market is just because there's always going to be athletes, no matter what. You know what I mean? People are always going to be competing, whether it's in baseball, football, lifting
Hmm.
weights. So that was a market that I wanted to get into because I want younger kids to kind of be aware of how lifting weights or exercise and stuff like that affects their body versus just being told what to do, because I feel like that's a
Hmm.
big problem that we have where we just tell kids like, hey, run a mile, or
Yeah.
hey, we need to
Yeah.
start stretching, but why?
Yeah.
If they don't know the value of why we stretch or eat or get massage and stuff like that, then we lose their attention.
Yeah. I agree. Um, and I think it's very important. And my wife and I try to instill that with our kids too. But I agree with you, man. Thankfully, our kids are in sports and they're pretty active. But I don't know. I would go crazy if they just sat around and ate chips all day. That'd be a problem, right? So that's my comment there. But you're definitely right. I think it's important to instill the value and go from there. So let's interesting thought. When we talk about these things, do you think that's a cultural thing or more of a social thing? When I talk social mainstream America, is it more of a cultural thing as far as being Hmong, getting kids involved, instilling those things? What are your thoughts, bro?
I think it could be a little bit of both, especially like because I think a lot of the times, as adults or as people, we don't really assume like the things that we do affect the younger generation that much. A lot
Right.
of the times we think it's like very big things, like graduating from college or getting married or buying a big house. You know what I mean? We don't
Mm-hmm.
usually think, hey, maybe some of the words that we say or the people that we hang out with or some of the activities that we do at home, for ourselves or for other people, young kids or the young people that love us are going to see these things and see it for what it is. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
an individual that doesn't like to exercise that much, maybe because you're so busy with life or other things, the kids or a lot of the younger people that you surround yourself with are going to look at life like that.
Yeah.
So when getting up and exercising and moving around is not like a regular part of your daily activities, or if there's anything that you don't like, the kids are going to look at it the same way.
Sure. So parental influence and guidance probably has a lot to do with it as well to some degree. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think because for Hmong people, since we've only lived in America for 40 something ish or so years, a lot of what we deem as important isn't what the current generation right now deem as important, if that makes sense. I
Define
think that
that. I mean, just for my sake, maybe if the audience is listening, what do you mean by that, man? I mean, I don't think there's any right or wrong perspective, but how do you divide that line? What do you box that?
so for myself, I like to talk a lot about like overall health, because a lot of people seem to think like physical health is the only way to be healthy.
Hmm.
And I think our grandparents or the generation that wasn't born in America, transitioning into my generation, the people that are born in America, I don't know, around the 1990s or before that,
Hmm.
we we tend to have like a different outlook because of the way that our that generation looks at what's important. So if you were coming from the other country and you are now living in America where you don't speak the language and you don't make money and stuff like that, the most important thing is financial and survival. So a lot of our grandparents and parents really want us to be successful at school and these things, mainly just because they know that, when they first came to America, the first people that they have to go see are like doctors or something like that. So if everybody got to go through this process, those
Yeah.
people are making money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You got to go
Yeah.
through lawyers and stuff like that to get your immigrant papers and stuff like that. These people are making money. You know what I mean? So that for them is like a skewed way to look at life, but that's all that they knew. Coming
Sure.
to America, this is how you make money. So then they instill that into like the kids so much to the point where like exercise or if you're artistic or if you have any sort of talents that don't involve these things, which is survival, education, then it's looked down upon because maybe they see something, they see life as successful, a little bit different from individuals that have been brought up and raised in America, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes total sense. Yeah, it's very compartmentalized, if you will, and I think all for the right reasons. But that resonates a lot. But Jenkins, not everyone can be a engineer or a doctor or a neurosurgeon or a lawyer. I mean, we have a good couple handfuls, if not more, now compared to maybe 20 years ago. But I think you're definitely right. Going back to 30 years plus ago, maybe even 25 years ago, this hasn't been that long. Our society is, I think, slowly starting to shed the blinders, if you will, and those value propositions, those things you mentioned about being valued, I think that's slowly changing. But I think you're definitely right there. You're spot on. I want my son to be a doctor. I want my daughter to be a lawyer because that's very, I wouldn't even say it's a stat symbol, but certainly it's a significance towards success, right? I think
Mhm.
that's wonderful. I think it's great. But heck, I mean, after biology class, looking at fruit fly chromosomes, like, I'm not pre-med. I'm not doing this stuff. Come on, give me a break. So,
I
but no, I
agree.
hear you. Yeah.
I think I think the intentions are good,
Hmm.
um, but because I think the love is so strong, especially like within Hmong culture, that
Hmm.
it creates that separation, that barrier, when you have individuals who are growing up in America and seeing that, hey, maybe going to college and trying to get this doctorate degree isn't all rainbows and sunshines like the way my parents have made it looked out
Yeah.
to be. Because it's always the things that you don't know that you assume things, right? The
Yeah.
grass is always green on the other side, right? Not
Yeah.
realizing that maybe your grass is just as nice. You just have to look at it with a new pair of glasses, if that makes
Right. Yeah. Or keep watering your own lawn; it'll get just as green. That's how you look at it,
sense.
right? So,
Yeah, pretty much.
whatever that is. So, and this is interesting because I remember the first time I ran into you. If you don't recall, if you did, that's great.
The LA
So
Fitness.
I look at this big picture, right? I'm like, so I'm doing my thing, James is doing his thing, and I'm so glad we kind of put the baseline there. But I remember my first time running into you. It was LA Fitness, Maplewood, sometime in the winter time, I think.
Mhm.
And you happen to be training there, and the one thing that gave me away,
What's up?
your red shoes.
My red shoes.
Your red
Yeah,
shoes.
the red
Your red
Adidas
Adidas.
powerlifting
Your
shoes.
red Adidas powerlifting shoes. I was like, you walk by, I said, I think that's James. That's exactly what I did. So, yeah, it was your red
Anyways,
shoes. You walked by me in the locker room. I said, I don't think you had a singlet on, a lifting singlet, but you had, I think you had a compression shorts or top. I'm like, it's James, man. I'm not saying hi to James. So we started talking, and that was it. But no, I appreciate you, man. I think you have done something that is no one, and I'm going to be very exclusive in our own little cultural bubble. No one in the Hmong community in the last 40 some years that has done. And you know what? I think people go, who's Jets James? But I watch you from a distance. I'm like, holy crap, this is some amazing feat, like a lot of good stuff. So I'm so proud that you're doing the things you are doing, and you've done so well. It's a passion you follow at heart. I think that goes right back to what you said earlier. It's kind of it's what you like, it's what you enjoy, and honestly, that's what you're good at. You want to be better at. And So, hats off to you, man. So, but I recall being you, and I'm like, it's a cool cat, not a bad guy. So,
Yeah, I
anyway,
I appreciate that. People think it's easy to do some of the things that I do. They like to put like an excuse, like this is why he is as strong as he is, or maybe it's because of his sponsors or things like that. Um, and yet I feel like when people do that, they stop themselves from becoming the best version of themselves because they
hmm
put me so high above them, not realizing I'm literally just like everybody else. You do something long enough, you're going to be better than everybody that quit, right?
yeah, couldn't agree more. And you got to take that leap of faith, man. I mean, that's something that's gonna like drive you. You're passionate about it. I say go for it. My late father said the same thing at a very young age. But sometimes I think about this. What's this Hmong guy doing in Texas, monkeying around with cowboys selling oil? I was like, yeah, you don't see that every day. But but I take it to heart by saying, hey, it's what I like to do. It's what I want to do. Is it unconventional in someone's book? Sure, but that's such a broad comment, right? And you're no different as far as that is concerned. I mean, you're not going to see the next Hmong powerlifter. You got our buddy Johnny and those guys, Big Johnny. I forgot Johnny. I chopped their name up, but anyways, he's a big guy. He lives up in Minnesota, and humble beast guy, and all those guys. I think that's very admirable. I think that you definitely blazed the trail to maybe create some interest. So it's good stuff, man. So like I said, I watch it from a distance. Like I show my wife, I said, oh, look, this James, holy cow, he's moving some serious weight. And she's like, yeah, you better start training us a few things, and it's all good. So it's okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, again, I made a podcast about this recently called Motivation, but one of the things that I find very valuable is literally being able to influence the next generation to not be like how we grew up and how our grandparents grew up. Now, it's not that I'm saying that what our grandparents, like the values and the things that they want us to do is bad, because I think everybody loves in different ways and they see life in different ways. But I think the biggest issue is just causing a lot of these younger folks to not understand what it is to take care of their body and be healthy. So again, it doesn't
Yeah,
have to be powerlifting. I think people get so confused when they see me because they assume that every time I talk, it's always about lifting weights for powerlifting or the sport of powerlifting, but it's more than just that. If you love Muay Thai or if you love bodybuilding, you don't even have to compete. Competition is just
yeah,
there. Bodybuilding and powerlifting should be that lifestyle that brings you to the gym every time because you enjoy it, right? And that's how we stay healthy. But when we don't stay healthy and we force a lot of these younger folks to focus on education and we keep them inside, obviously a lot of them are going to figure out ways to hang out inside, which is what, play video games or do other
yeah,
things inside the house. That's why so many Asian kids love playing video games or computer stuff, because when you force kids to not go out and focus on their books, then they stay and they focus on that. And
yeah.
then we develop years and years and years of negative health for our grandparents, for our parents, and for us. And I like to use my family as an example. You got
hmm
all three generations of my family all in the hospital all at the same time. But you got
That's
right.
staggering, man. That's heavy.
So you got my grandma, you got my dad, and you got my brother. We got 20-year-old, 40-year-old, 60-year-old all in the hospital all at the same time. And if
My
we,
God.
right? So if you continue this trend, that pretty much says like my nieces and nephews are going to be in the hospital way before their dad. And for me, I feel like this is a reoccurring thing. It's not just in my family. You know what I mean? Every funeral that I ever go to, what do you hear? It's either from liver cancer or lung cancer, from Hmong OGs who drink too much alcohol or smoke too much, or you have diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, heart attacks. All these things stem from unhealthy habits that we can stop right now. You know what I mean? And when we
hmm
don't address these things, and again, I'm not saying stop drinking or stop smoking. But what I'm saying is that people need to be aware of how these things affect their body and how it
Yeah.
affects these young kids growing up. That
hmm
way, you don't have to be at your niece's or nephew's funeral because their parents decide that healthy life choices isn't for them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So what I do, I feel like the better I get, the more people are going to listen to me. Because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, it's like you said, right now there's only a handful of Asian Americans, not even just Hmong Americans, Asian Americans in general, that competes or does anything at the level that I do.
Mhm.
So when you do get to the level that I do, you have to be, again, a little bit more careful with, some of the things that you say and do. And if these are the problems that I see within our community, and people are, all eyes are on me, I guess, then let
Mhm.
me say something.
Sure.
Let me tell people like, hey, if you want your kids to be as successful as me, then you got to allow them to explore and grow themselves. If you want people
Yeah.
to, I don't know, be healthy and not have these issues, then maybe I want to be the first resource that people think when it comes to health or fitness or whatever. Then at least I know like they got their information from a trusted source.
Mhm.
It's not like I'm trying to BS anybody, because if you need to know anything, uh, you can literally find all that stuff for free on my YouTube channel.
Sure.
It's not like it's something where I'm trying to like get all the money from your pocket, so it's genuine. It comes from a good
Right.
place.
And I want to touch on that one point you talk about. How do I say it? Uh, Neglecting your health, and we talk about this many times on the Hmong Fitness Motivation page. But a fact of it is, I have a younger brother. I have two younger brothers who are physicians, and the older one of the two, who's actually his name is Ching. And for everybody who's curious, Ching, her MD at Gunderson Lutheran in La Crosse. He's been on staff for 20 some years, really good at what he does. But at one point, my father, my foster dad, because my biological Hmong parents passed away, and my dad now was their mentor. I kind of gave my bio in fitness a long time ago. They did a research on Hmong diabetes and cholesterol and heart disease, and the numbers were scary. They did samples. And I don't know where it is, but I think my brother and my dad both co-published a paper on it. And it fell on deaf ears. It fell on deaf ears. Cheng, my brother, was on, if you were in Minnesota, um, he was on the public touch up TV channel TPT Echo and
Mhm.
public community thing. He was on there a couple of times. My aunt Ma, she was hosting that after Senator Foam did for a long time. But he spoke about diabetes in plain common language, and actually, did it in Hmong too. So hopefully people absorb that. But I asked him, said, "How's that going?" He just goes, "Man, I don't know. I put a lot of time into this for goodwill, and kind of fell on deaf ears." But I think there is a problem in our community from a health perspective. You're right. My 35-year-old cousin should not be getting a bypass, right? He should not be getting a stent put in.
Right.
What's going on? And without name, he's father's my father's twin sister's son. So he's my first cousin. And I said, "Your mom," of course, she, rest in peace. He goes, "Yeah, she's type 2 diabetes." I said, "Okay, what are you doing about carbs?" "Oh, she can't let go of rice. She's got to have a rice." So we just inject her with, meant a lot of IUs before dinner. I'm like, "Bro, you're kind of killing your mom. What are your thoughts about that?" And sure enough, I hate to say that, but I got real with them. And I think there was a little bit of discomfort in the conversation, but not short after that, within the year, my aunt passed away. And I'm like, what's up? So it's unfortunate. But I think this is an opportunity, be it you doing powerlifting or I do my recreational, other folks on the page have done very well. It's just to say there's an alternative, right? Just because you're not a doctor doesn't mean, or it doesn't mean, you can try something else to do. And I think for some reason, I feel it's slowly sinking into our community, but it's not fully embraced yet. But I think this is a good catalyst, I think, that your exposure, be it what it is for Hmong fitness, it kind of sparked a couple things. And 19,000 people strong. Someone's watching. Someone maybe taking notes. That's my grand hope out of this whole thing. But you're right, man. It's huge. Hmong health. Oh, it's in the shitters, man. It really is. No judgment, but this is called like it is. It's crap. So
It's just the honest truth, and it's like if I have to be, again, the messenger to tell you that this is what's going to happen to you because you choose to do these things, then you can go, like, again, you can go ahead and shoot me.
yeah.
Because if me trying to tell you that this is how to save your life or how to avoid, unnecessary trauma from your own family just by exercising or changing the way you eat or maybe thinking about the way you sleep, if this is too much for you to handle, then I don't know what else to say. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
more do you want from me? If that makes sense.
yeah.
because people were so worried about this COVID stuff, and I think you should, mainly because if you're affected by it or if you have underlying health issues, like what we're talking about now, then COVID is going to affect you a lot more. But again, more people die from heart attacks and diabetes than they have from COVID or any of these viruses.
Yeah.
So I feel like not to knock on COVID, but we need to worry about these other issues just as much. And all of these issues can be combated by literally dieting and exercising. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't have to compete. You don't have to be me, because trust me, you can't just one day all of a sudden decide you want to powerlift and think you're going to beat me, because a lot of people tend to think that.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
disrespect to anybody, but trust me, putting in about 10 plus years and competing
Oh,
at the level
dude.
that I compete at, I know how hard it is to be here.
Definitely, man. It's interesting because, I think you're pretty open as far as being an open book for people to understand and read, and you share yourself dynamically on the page, and same here. And I always I feel compelled just to put the dates up there. This was when I was 14. Here's I'm at 52. Do the math. That's 38 years of training.
Yeah,
What? 38? I just turned 32 the other day, says some people. Right?
exactly.
And it's okay. I'm not trying to overwhelm. Neither, I don't think you are either, but it's kind of like, if you're in it, and that's okay. But if you're not, find a different alternative. But we all have our reasons and our why behind that. We talk about that a lot, and it's just good stuff. But some people can't even think 30 days ahead, which is 38 years. And I think maybe it's mental training, maybe some mental exercising. No pun intended, but it's true. And maybe finding a different circle of influence to help you get to that point of, I call it thinking. That's before you even take the first step or first jog. Just like, how do you embrace this? How will you embrace this? And it goes into other areas like we just talked about again. It's your health, man. I mean,
Yep.
You got little kids, you got a wife. You just turned 33. Why are you 280 and you're still like can't even get off the couch? And I'm being extreme in that. I don't know anyone like that, but I'm being extreme to make a point, right? So
I do know people like that, which is
oh my god, dude, just forget it, man.
Dude, I'm not okay. So this is so funny, but so I do have people within my family, but I just like to use this as an example to kind of show people how crazy this sounds to me. So you know how I lift really, really heavy weights.
Mm-hmm.
People see me like 140, 150 pound guy squatting 6'7", now working on 800 pounds. It's crazy and it's weird. So it must be steroids, or it must be he's cheating, or he's rich, or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So me and Mark, you know how we were doing the Hmong fitness thing, and a lot of people know who I am from the lifting that I do, and people always ask me. Someone very close to me and Mark, I guess, during this moment, asked us, "Hey, don't you know if you guys keep lifting all of those heavy weights, you guys are gonna break your back?" Now, this was a guy who was limping from back pain, telling us that lifting weights is gonna give us back problems. Tell me how funny that sounds. And then you ask them, how did your back or whatever hurt? And they'll say, because I got up the wrong way. Tell me how crazy that sounds. So your back is hurting, and it's
stop. No, you're being
broken.
A prick. Stop. Right? Stop. You're being a prick.
I was thinking to myself, if your back broke from not exercising, how are you going to tell me my back is going to break from exercising?
Yeah.
That blew my mind,
Yeah. I've had similar conversations, not that level, but very similar to sometimes you sit back and go, it's all good.
And the one thing that I just like to tell people, like, you don't have to lift as heavy as me. It's not a race, but I think that's the thing that we've been bred to believe. Like, oh, if I lift weights, I must be stronger than you, or I don't even want to start. Yeah. But what if your journey is not to be stronger than me? What if your journey is to live long enough to see your grandchildren have kids? What if that's your battle? Then maybe you shouldn't be lifting as heavy as me to prove a point to your community. Maybe you should lift as much as you can at a pace that you can to allow your body to naturally accumulate or acclimate into a healthier individual, to where now you could do these things that you couldn't. Maybe just getting up from your bed and your back won't break. You know what I mean? These things are very important.
Oh, yeah. Or you're walking across the floor and what's snapping and cracking? Oh, those are my knees and my back and my shoulders. Yeah.
right? People's knees, shoulders,
Yeah.
back all break regardless if you
Oh
lift
my
weights or not,
God. Yeah.
right? So
I
how are
get
you
it.
going to
I
tell me
get
my
it.
back is going to break from lifting? It's already going to break if we continue the same process our grandparents and parents are doing,
Phew.
right?
You know, if you talk about that, I think our grandparents or great grandparents, they're probably the most healthiest when they're in Laos. You know why? From
Yeah,
dawn
because
till dusk, they were working the field on the side of a freaking mountain, and you don't work, you don't eat. And so, and that's another thing too. The other aspect is, you know, you come to this country and you're like, oh, I work. You know, Hmong people work so hard our lives. Oh my gosh, there's meat at the market. There's this. We're gonna splurge, right? So, and again, that's another factor towards poor health today in the elderly, and also maybe even our generation if we're not careful. But it has to be a mental shift there in the community somewhere along the way. I think it's coming along, but it's not where it could be. It's been 40 years, and for some people, 40 years is a long time, but 40 years isn't a long time, James. You think about it, you know?
the reason why I think it hasn't come along yet, and as much as I hate to say this, is the people that Hmong people love has not gotten to a point where they are passing away at a rate where they care. See, all the people that has ever had a grandparent or anything like that who's passed away from something like diabetes or something like that, see,
Yeah,
for them, it hits hard. It hits them really hard, some of the things that I'm saying. But other people, their grandparents, you may not even know that they're diabetic. And then all of a sudden, a year or two, that's when they pass away. And then you realize what happened, right?
yeah,
People are
yeah,
crying all the time about, man, could we have done something about this? Or why did they have to suffer to this degree? And all it really
yeah,
is just changing your diet and exercising. So, you think about how we can change all these things. It's going to take a lot of work. It's not just going to happen overnight. But I can tell you that the reason why health and fitness are becoming more and more important now is because more and more people are dying every day from these things that we've been talking about for the
oh
last
yeah,
10 something years.
yeah,
Give it another 5 years, another million people are going to die from diabetes, right? And then what's going
hmm,
to happen then? The next generation, kind of like me or other younger folks, are going to be like, hey, maybe we should stop. And
yeah,
as sad as for me to say that, that's going to be where the shift is going to happen the most. The
yeah,
more people die, the more people are going to be aware of their health. And
yeah.
it's as
There's that
fast as
critical
that.
mass where things are like, this is it. This is the breaking point, and who knows where that's going to be. Hopefully, not too grave of a situation. Um, I'm curious, man. Let's go back to you real quick.
Okay.
When and how did you get started in your training? I think a lot of people on the page would like to know. I'm asking generically because I think that's the feel. Tell about, think of that time, go back to that time where you're like, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to find a way to do it. When did that happen to you, man?
Well, for those who's been following me, it's been kind of repetitive, but I think it started from when I was in middle school. I
Okay.
was a very small and skinny Asian kid. A lot of people used to think I was in elementary school, going to middle school. So you can almost kind of see, like, I have a very small and weak perspective or view of myself.
Okay.
So one of the things that I always wanted to do was play sports. So I always used to run, play football, play soccer. But my parents, especially like my dad, they really put it in perspective like, hey, you're small, you're weak, and you're very smart. So maybe, you should probably just do this for a little bit, or maybe just quit now and focus on your books. So every time I found something that I love to do, it's always been smashed down, too
Mm.
small. Then you got your older brother who's always looking down on you because you're weak, and he doesn't want you to hang out with him because you're quote unquote like, being a little mode, right? So he don't want to hang out with you. So everything that I've ever
Yeah.
known from a little kid is like, I can't do these things because I'm too small and I'm too little. And it kind of traumatized me a little bit. So, growing up, when I see my older brothers and them lifting weights, one of the things that my brother used to always do was talk about how my bench press is so weak compared to his.
Hmm.
So then I always think, so pretty much what you're saying is if I continue to bench press and continue to get stronger, then you will allow me to hang out with you, or maybe you will look at me different. And it took me, what, 3 years, 4 years after that of just working
Okay.
out from 12 years old. just messing with a couple of dumbbells, doing some machines here and there, not really know what I'm doing, to hitting high school where I started lifting more weights into eventually being stronger than him. So it took me about 5 or 6 years. And I feel like when I began to lift weights and I began getting stronger, I realized something about myself. That the whole time, it wasn't even about me being strong enough for my brother to accept me. The whole time, it was just about me accepting myself. That I am better than what
Yeah.
anybody else thinks, because I was finally able to reach this point where I'm stronger than the guy that used to call me weak. Now it's like maybe it wasn't even what he was saying the whole time. Maybe it was just the way that I looked at
Sure.
myself.
Sure.
And I feel like that mentality is still very current right now, where I feel like I can never get strong enough. I can never be good enough, and when you keep striving for these things, you get a little crazy, but that's why I'm at the level that I'm at right now, because I'm always chasing after something that I can't quench.
Yeah.
So for like, when a lot of people always ask me about motivation on how to continue to lift weights, well, if you're happy with where you are at in your life, physically and mentally and financially, then there's nothing you need to do. You're perfect. You're exactly where we want to be in life, where we don't have to worry about nothing. We have perfect health, financial, everything's
Oh
perfect,
God.
right? But you and me both know
Show
how
me the
BS that
line, man.
sounds
If that's the case, show me the line, right?
like.
So come
Right?
on.
So for me, I always tell people the reason why I'm so strong is because I'm not at your level yet.
Yeah.
I need to reach the level where I can just say, I can skip the gym because I know that I'm already happy with where I'm at. See, the
Sure.
problem is I can't skip the gym because I'm not happy with where I'm at. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if it's easy for you to skip the gym, then maybe the gym isn't what you need to focus on. Maybe it's your relationship, or maybe it's your job, or maybe it's your,
Sure.
relationship with your significant other.
Right.
There's
Right.
other aspects of what makes you strong and healthy. And if you're not motivated to lift weights, you should focus on something else.
Yeah.
And then when you have that extra time, come back and lift weights then.
Yeah.
So I
So
think
my
for me, that's
question is,
what happened.
are you able to hang out with your brother now?
Say it
Because you
again.
can lift more. My question is, are you able to hang out? Is he allowing you to hang? Is he allowing you to hang
Oh,
out with him now that you can lift more than you? I don't care what
I
else you
mean,
said.
come
I just
on,
want to know if
man.
the brother is letting you hang out with him now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an 8-time national champion now. When I come hang out at his house,
Oh
20 or
God,
30 of his friends want to come hang out with me and
that's
talk about lifting
awesome.
weights. So now it's like
That's awesome.
I'm big in his life in a different way now. I
That's good.
bring his
That's good.
friends over.
Again, just kidding there. You talk about motivation, and we hear that every day, all the time. Not even on the page, but really anything else. And you brought up a very interesting point, and I said this to my brothers, and they had a lot of years in school. And I said, "Doctor, why'd you become a physician? What's the deal?" He goes, "Well, the one my brother who's right behind me, the older of the two, goes, when and his drive was this. It wasn't even about money. It wasn't even about whatever. He just goes, when mom was so sick, I couldn't save her. Up our bio mom. He goes, that lit my fire. I get help other people. That was his motivation, right? And interestingly enough, he's the one in lacrosse, and he talked about when the community heard that he was a Hmong doctor in town, everyone flocked to see him, and it's a wonderful thing, to the point where they come knock on his door on the weekend when he's doing landscaping, moving boulders. I mean, literally, that's a true story. And he's just like, yeah, there was an older gentleman who came in with a lot of ailments and stuff. And after I talked to him about 2 or 3 times, I figured it was more depression than anything, but he won't change his way of life. And I said, what happened? He just goes, about the 5th visit, I told him I can't help him. And he was shocked. He was shocked to hear that from me and my brother saying this, being a Hmong doctor telling another Hmong elder, I can't help you now because you won't do this to change your way of life. Moshia, Koshia, whatever Hmong say about that, but he's just like, you got to get out. Go take your grandkids for a walk. And that was unheard of for grandpa to do that, at that time. But so to your point, everyone has their own motivation to do things. You want to excel in this. My brother, didn't want to do that. And kind of like yourself, I was that skinny Hmong kid in central Wisconsin in a very white, homogenous town. But I saw my buddies play football. They ran faster. They got bigger. They got stronger.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do, right? They can hit the ball farther in baseball. How do I do that? So we all have our little fires, but I love to hear your story all the time. Motivation. We hear that a lot, man. So you talk about doing what you do. You're not at your level. You're always pursuing that. And I think that resonates with me too. But how would you describe motivation? Dead horse. Let's kick it one more time for the masses. What does that mean? What does it look like to you, man?
For myself, I almost try to get rid of motivation completely, mainly because I feel like if you need motivation to do something that you know is good for you, then maybe you need to think about, maybe you need to reflect back on yourself if you need motivation to do that. And I like to use food as an example because just about 99.9% of people like to eat food. When you're motivated to eat a steak, you're going to do everything in your power to eat a nice steak. If you can't cook it good yourself, you'll make sure someone else cook it for you, right? But when you're
Gotcha.
not motivated to eat, you're still going to eat, right? You just ain't going to eat a steak, but maybe you might eat a sandwich or something like that in your kitchen because obviously at the end of the day, you need to eat. So when I think about motivation, I need motivation to do things that I don't want to do. Like, for example, I used to like drawing a lot, but I don't have time to draw anymore. But when I do draw, I'm motivated emotionally to spend an hour or two to draw.
Mm-hmm.
So when people have to be motivated to go into the gym and exercise, that's why I ask them, why do you even want to exercise in the first place if you need motivation to come and love yourself enough to be healthy? You're literally
Yeah.
fighting with yourself by saying, I know this is good for me, but I'm not going to do it. And all I'm trying to get you to realize
Oh,
is,
yeah.
right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'm
it
trying to
makes
get,
total sense, man.
it's as simple as that for me when it comes to motivation. Motivation comes and goes. You don't need motivation to feel your workouts or feel yourself, to love yourself enough to do these things to make your life better.
Yeah.
I think what you need is a life force. You need something in your life that allows you to go back into the gym day in and day out. And it should be something that is more than just motivation. When you love someone like your mom or your dad, regardless if they disowned you or they hate you or anything like that, unconditional love or unconditional, like loving them for sure, no matter what, you're going to love them no matter what. You're going to
Yeah.
love them if they hate you. You're going to love them if they love you, no matter what. And I feel like lifting weights or loving yourself is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
You find reasons to do the things that you love during the days that you're motivated, you're just going to hit the gym way harder. When you're
Yeah.
not motivated, you'll probably go in there and do biceps or just walk on the freaking treadmill for 10, 15 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's how I look at motivation. It shouldn't be something that you find because it should be from within. If you don't exercise, you're not going to be healthy. If you're not healthy, your kids are going to be unhealthy. If your kids are unhealthy, there's a chance that because you're unhealthy and you pass negative genetics to your kids, that they are going to be in the hospital for the same problems that you're currently going through at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, if this isn't something that you want, then maybe you should start thinking that exercising or thinking about your health, either physically through diet or exercise, might be something that's important to you. And
Yeah.
if it's not, then you don't have these issues. Your issues is not underlying health issues. Your issues is something else. Financials, significant other. Find the motivation to fix those things. So that way you think about your life from a deeper perspective and not just it's a hobby or it's an activity that
Right.
I have to force myself to do. It shouldn't even be like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
James, do you think the way you explain it and maybe the way I explain it in my own way, do you think you ever feel like you're pushing an agenda on someone? Do you ever feel that people feel that way when you speak to them? Like, I'm not sure how to ask the question, but maybe that's the best way to put it. Do you feel sometimes when people observe you, you can feel the weight of their stares or the weight of their criticism in their mind, in their heart? Man, this guy's just pushing me to go train and go lift a truck.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you ever feel that way?
I do, but the worst that can happen is they live a better lifestyle. So for me, that outweighs whatever problems that I feel coming my way. Because if,
Mhm.
again, that's why I like to reiterate that I'm not trying to make people become powerlifters. I'm trying to make people become more healthy. And if powerlifting is the route that you want to choose, that's where I specialize in. If anybody ever asks me about bodybuilding, I ain't gonna tell you jack about bodybuilding. You get what I'm saying?
It's not what you do, right? Because you're like,
Exactly.
hey, I don't know. I have an idea, right?
But that's after you realize that
Yeah,
going to the gym is more than just a hobby. When you're
right.
asking, I want to get into bodybuilding or powerlifting or Muay Thai or these things, you've already got past the point of, I want to work on myself and this is the route that I'm going to take. We just
Yep.
need people to get to the, I need to take care of myself first. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And if all I have to do is make you feel bad about your choices because of your own personal love, because I know people way better than people know themselves. Everybody's got loved ones. Everybody's got young nieces or nephews or children or these things that they love. And you can use that against them. And the worst that could happen is if they hate you, but they'll love you later. So it's fine for me. Hate me
Oh
all
my
you
God.
want.
Yeah,
It means
yeah,
that you live a better lifestyle, or every time you think about these negative things, you're going to think back to how angry you are at me for telling you that this is dumb. Eventually, you're going to be like, you know what? Maybe I need to change.
yeah, yeah.
And then they hate
I
me
agree.
now, but they'll love me later. So that's how I look at it.
Or my other comment is, all right, we talked about this stuff, or you can do nothing about it and stop talking about it.
Yep.
And they're like, well, that's kind of cold. Well, I'm being real. Right? So, no, I get you. We talk about support. We talk about support for each other and those who, I won't even go as far as saying like-minded, but this passion that we do, right? It's very exclusive, it's very narrow, but support in general. What are your thoughts on those who are always breaking things down? Being that crab who pulls others back into the basket with them, the ones who are always the naysayers, the ones who say, "Man, you do that wrong," or "Yeah, I wouldn't do that," or "That's just wrong, wrong, wrong," or "Bad, bad, bad." Don't. What do you got to say about that? Because I'm sure you had your fair share of that growing up.
Mhm. I have two things to say about that. And I know not everybody's going to be like me. So what I'm going to say might not apply to you. And then I'll address the other part later.
Sure.
But for me, I actually enjoy that because, again, all of my life I've been told that I'm little and I can't do things. And when I was finally able to become stronger than my brother, it lets me know that I myself have the ability to change the way people that I love think about how they view me. So, um, on that point, if people are nagging on you or talking a lot of smack about you, all it means is you're doing something so amazing that they don't even understand what you're doing. And they're going to continue to hate. And it's up to you to let that be true, or you change yourself to make that false. Arguing with someone who's not in the same lane as you, someone who is a couch potato, who's trying to tell you how to lift weights when you're focusing on lifting weights, their opinion should have no value to you. But if you do happen to allow their opinions to have value onto you, then the question I always ask is, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You're going to let what they say hurt you and be true? Or are you going to change yourself to the point where what they're saying isn't even true? And now these people just look like idiots. You let them defeat themselves by continuing to focus on your personal self and your personal growth. So, for example, if you are a bodybuilder who is competing in bodybuilding and you want to take it to the next step, and you might want to start thinking about performance enhancing drugs because that's what that sport calls for if you want to be at the top of the top.
Yeah. No
Okay?
lie there.
So if you feel like taking drugs is going to get you there and you're competing within the same morality and ethicalness with other people, where if it's a drug test, then you don't compete drugged up. If you're competing against the Mr. Olympias where they're not going to drug test you, then you better be gassed up, right? Because you're
Oh
not
yeah.
even going to be top 10, even if you gas up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you already know that this is going to be a positive thing and you've done your research, you've have a lot of information and you yourself know this topic better than all these couch potatoes who are sitting at home who's drinking beer, smoking, and telling you that taking steroids is worse than them drinking and smoking and not exercising, then I think
Ah,
you yourself, you lost a battle because you
yeah,
can't prove them wrong. So
yeah,
when I think of these things as a person, I like to prove people wrong, and I feel, and for me that fuels me. I don't get upset at haters or people who talk smack at all, because at the end of the day, I already know who I am and I know what I'm going to
yeah,
accomplish. Which
yeah,
means if you keep talking smack, you're going to be the guy that looks very funny when I accomplish it.
yeah,
Not me. You look funny.
yeah.
Now, on the second end, if you're not like me, where you have the mindset to overcome these things, and you feel like these things are going to get to you in terms of hate, I think you should. That's how you know these are the people that you don't need to be surrounding yourself with. Again, it's as simple as that. Negative people, you can't handle negative people. You hang out with people who are positive to you. If you can overcome them like me, then you just look at them and you say, "You're right," until I change, until I prove you wrong. So there's two
Good
methods,
points.
and that's kind of how I look
Yeah,
at it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. Hey, he's barely 150. On a light day, he's 142. What do you mean the man's pulling 650? What do you mean he's squatting 600? Oh, you must be on the gas. Well, you're entitled to your opinion, Mister Commentator, right? So,
And
that guy can't be
honestly,
that big.
I
I've
don't,
never seen a Hmong guy his size before. Yeah, you ever heard of food? You ever heard of like 6,000 calories for 3 months and then cutting back to half and letting the body recoup? Yeah, I don't know. Give it a try sometime. So I hear what you're saying, and over the years, I think initially, and to that point, when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was starting to get much, much bigger, it got to me because I didn't know how to wrestle that, right? A young dad with a couple of kids, two, three kids, and someone saying all that stuff. I'm like, man, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm a pretty educated guy, but what are you talking about? And the thing about this is, and I digress a little bit, and I throw this question out there. Oh, really? What do you know about it? Right? And someone asks me, oh, you must have said, what do you know about it? And I've done this before. I'm like, what stack do you think I'm on if you really know about it? I don't know. You're on it.
see,
Okay.
then that's how you know their opinions
I'm like,
doesn't even
okay.
matter. They don't even know what they're talking about.
Right, right. So and again, and to be totally transparent between you and I here, like I said, I don't want to talk my brothers too much, but I speak openly to them about that. No, I say, hey, what do you guys think about that? They're like, well, what's your goal and what do you really want to do? I mean, if you're doing recreationally, you better know what's going to happen, And I've gone as point as no one's here, I guess so. I've gone as far as asking my brother. I said, "Can you write me a script?" He goes, "Oh hell no, I wouldn't do that stuff. You're my brother. I don't do that stuff. That stuff you don't do. You just don't do recreationally." So there's always a boundary, right? And that's the conversations I've had with my brothers in the past. And that was 15 some years ago, young and stupid. But my point being is, it's kind of like you're entitled to your opinion, audience. But if you really want to know, then let's have a one-on-one. But otherwise, what I'm telling you is what I'm telling you. Dude's a liar. Okay, that's fine. Have a good day. Enjoy
Yep.
your bowl of pho. All good. Right?
For me, I already assume that people think I'm on stuff
Of course, dude.
because I don't train with the thought of being normal. So normal people shouldn't look at me as normal. People should automatically assume that I'm taking something because that's just how much better and stronger and how much more hardworking I am compared to a regular individual.
Mm.
So for me, like, I hope people think I'm on steroids because that means I've accomplished what we all want to do, to
Yeah.
get so
Yeah.
strong or so big to the point where people can't even believe you anymore. And so
Oh,
for
it's fun.
myself,
It's almost kind of comical, but
it
you're
is
right. Yeah.
comical, right? That's why, like, I can't even be upset when people say that because it just means I've accomplished my goal.
Right.
I've accomplished the goal of me being able to change the way people look at me
Yeah.
without even having to try. And they could just see
Right.
it through the ways, and they have to assume that I'm cheating in order to get here, right? And for
Mm-hmm.
me, I dig that stuff, man. I have no issues with that. Because again, you're gonna believe whatever it is that you're gonna believe anyways, regardless of
Yeah.
what I tell you. If you say,
Yeah.
see this is the Bruce Lee quote that I love quoting because it's so true. If I tell you I'm on steroids, you'll be like, I knew it. If I told you that I wasn't on steroids, you think I'm lying. So you already made up your mind when you ask that question, and it's gonna
Yeah.
go the way that you want it, regardless or not.
Yeah.
So
They already put you in that box, right? They already put you in that box.
yep.
Doesn't matter.
But I can tell you
Interesting.
this: come work out with me. see the
No,
way,
no
see the
lie.
way, yeah, see the way that I think
Yeah,
about lifting. Like I have a bunch of I have a lot of friends that I'm really, really close with, and they have a bunch of friends that they're really, really close with, and every single one of
sure.
them all lift weights, and they always ask my circle, what's James's secret, man? You gotta tell me, like, it must be steroids, it must be something, and then they'd be like, you really want to know his secret? I could tell you, it's so simple, but the problem is you won't be able to do it. And they're like, yeah, yeah, just tell me James's secret. He's like, all right, and then this
I
is what
love
he
it.
tells them, which is so true. The moment James wakes up, he's thinking about lifting weights. He's going to ask himself, did he get enough sleep? Did he drink enough water? What kind of food he's going to need to eat? And he thinks about all of this the moment he wakes up. So his warm up is already starting right now. I'm
Yeah,
thinking about how the weights feel in about another 6 hours. Is my legs stiff? Is my back tight? Is my shoulders moving all right? Did I get enough sleep? Is today even the day that I should be doing this workout? Because I got all these other things going on. Who am I going to talk to today? Who am I going to
yeah,
see? These are all the things that I think about, and I struggle with that all throughout the day, trying to perfect the best lifting day that I can. Every single rep, every warm up, every little thing that I do to get to my top set is all in conjunction with everything that I've done in the last 15 years.
I love
Now,
it.
if you can't do what I'm just saying right now every single day, and it's going to be difficult for you, how are you ever going to be on my level? See, for me, I don't like to just work out just to work out. That workout has to be perfect. Every rep, every set. I can't waste a workout anymore because you already know, as heavy as I'm lifting, I only have so many years of competitive powerlifting.
Yeah,
There's a difference. I'm going to powerlift for the rest of my life, but I only have so many years of competitive powerlifting. And even
right.
I understand that. So every workout I do has to be super specific. I need to make sure I get in the amount of rest and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And when he says that to these people, they're like, yeah, we ain't willing to do that. Well, if you ain't willing to do that, then you'll never be as strong as me.
and
Simple.
that's okay, right?
And
And
that's
that's
okay.
okay, right?
I understand
It's
not
okay,
everybody's as crazy as me because this is what I love to do.
right?
You can't make me hate this. If you told me to go do 1,000 squats, I'll think of that as a challenge and be like, I'm gonna try that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna try to do 1,000
yeah,
squats before the day ends. It's not like it's a
right.
chore for me. You know,
No, I
so
really that's really that's spot on. It's a mindset, it's a mentality. In the same fashion, it's kind of like how do I see my next meeting going? How do I? And you talk about planning the second you wake up. Yeah, I'm food. Yeah, I'm all about food too.
yeah,
It's that, and then it's kind of like what am I going to eat today? What do I have prepped to? What's the family going to eat? And I think all that, and to the point where I mentioned once in a while on the page, James, about having that vision or seeing yourself doing things a certain way. In this case, be very granular, be specific towards training. Oh, I see how my leg workout's going to go today. That's what I expect to happen.
hmm
And if that kind of makes me shudder a little bit, then I better okay, regroup, refocus. So like you in a different way, you got to have that, I call it mindset. It's almost OCD. And I hate to put it that way, but I don't know. I mean, the next guy, your neighbor, might wake up and say, "I can't wait for Saturday because I'm going to go chug a case of beer, and I am going to have an IPA this time instead of Bud Light." And I'm being very crude in that example, but you always have that forethought, that thought going ahead of yourself, saying, "What's the next step? What am I going to do? What do I expect out of it? What's the return on my investment for doing that?" You know what yours is. I know what mine is.
yep,
But does that person who's asking that question, do they know what it is? Because there is no silver bullet. We all know that,
yep,
right? And it's an ongoing thing. Change is the one thing you can count on. How you react to it and deal with it, hey, it'll make or break you. That's my
mhm,
humble thoughts. I don't know, so call me crazy. But yeah. No, I like that, man. Good stuff.
yeah,
Meet and greets, man. The last couple of years have been pretty good. I remember the first one that I couldn't attend because, again, family and kids, vacation and stuff, because I'm a dad. I got 7 excuses called 7 kids, and I couldn't make it. But the first one I think back to was really amazing. You and I talked about that, and it was almost even emotional to the point where it's like, wow, what a great turnout. Everyone's jumping in at Los Campeones in Minneapolis. It was an awesome turnout. Even though I wasn't there, it looked amazing, man. Let's reflect on that for a little bit.
yeah. I mean, since 2014, I've been trying to do get-togethers for the J4th. because I know like a lot of people like to come to the July 4th and play sports and stuff. So I was thinking, well, there are a lot of people that like sports. I know there's a whole bunch of people that like to lift weights. But the hardest part is when we do schedule something, outside of the J4th, people don't want to show up because it's outside of the J4th. It's
Mm-hmm.
usually if we can get something within the July 4th where people will be like, all right, we want to get together and work out.
Yeah.
So from 2014 to about 2017, it's been like 3 years of, just hosting and nobody showing up, to when everybody showed up at Los Campeones, where we had like 50 plus people and all these health individuals, got together and we worked out, got some food at Checkers Bar afterwards, have a couple of
Yeah.
beers and shots, just to talk, and hang
Yeah.
out. Because again, I drink too. People all assume that I don't drink, but it's like I'm also Hmong, so there's a good chance I have some history of drinking. That makes sense.
It's all good, man. No, I love
And
it. And
and for me, it was very emotional for me because like, I mean, you can imagine every year trying to do something like this and nobody shows up. You might have one or two guys and that's it.
yeah.
And now you see 50 people who are interested in their health. Year after that, we do more get-togethers, 50 plus
Yeah.
people again. We're trying to do more in other areas like in Wisconsin, and then we did the Fresno New Year as
Yeah.
well.
Ginseng and Trish and everybody else ran that one up there,
Yep.
So that was amazing. That was
Yep.
amazing stuff.
And, as the more we continue to do this, it's just more to grow that same infectious idea that, if you build on yourself, you're going to build yourself in everything that you do, whatever
Yeah.
career, like even, if you want to be like a nerd or whatever, you lifting weights or just being aware of your physical health can kind of help build whatever it is that you want to go into, because it builds foundation for hard work. It builds, this is tough and this is what I have to overcome. And when you
Yeah.
overcome that every single time, through your jobs and stuff like that, relationships, it's going to be tough, but it helps you build that little by little through your training.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can just spread that a little bit more, all the way up into the future, I think that would be great. So hopefully in the future, after all
Yeah.
this COVID stuff, we
Yeah.
can continue to do more stuff with the July 4th and stuff like that, or New Year's, because a lot of people tend to try to gather. And now, especially because of COVID and people don't have access to gyms anymore, I hope that people start to value what it means to just have access to the gym and be healthy and these things. And
Right.
some of the things I hope we could do in the future.
Perfect. Love it.
Mhm.
So Hmong Fitness and Motivation, what a page, right? I think it's very dynamic. I think it's pretty clean page, not a lot of craziness in there. But once in a while you get a rampant bad apple that comes through, but very rare. What are your thoughts on Hmong Fitness and Motivation, where it was and where it is today in terms of tone, content? And I guess I'll throw the word participation in there too. What are your thoughts on that? Broad question for a reason.
Mhm.
What's your feel, man?
I think for the most part, it's gotten a lot better. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with, us, the individuals who are, again, this is not to belittle anybody, but the people who are knowledgeable enough to try to tackle the questions and issues we have within the Hmong community and the Hmong fitness page. I feel like we've done a pretty good job at trying to hammer those things. And one of the problems that I see a lot within the group is literally people asking the same questions over and over and over again without being very specific. So, again, it's kind of like, I hate it when people say, how do you lose weight? It's such again, a broad question, because we don't know what you've been doing. We don't know what you're currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if you're willing to exercise or not, because people want to lose weight, but they don't want to go to the gym. Then how do you lose weight through exercise, right? So sometimes it's so general and broad that they don't even know what they're asking, if that makes sense. So that's why I created that playlist on the announcements, where I literally broke it down from, you don't even know why you shouldn't even be going to the gym, from the very beginning all the way into starting to exercise and be healthier and things like that, to help people who are asking a lot of broad and general questions, to allow them to have that resource. And I think a lot of us too, answering questions, doing videos, and kind of having these conversations to address the problems has been a lot better in the last few years, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it does.
Hmm. And I definitely think as we continue to move forward and have more and more people feel comfortable about their fitness journey, that we can get more questions, because that's the reason why we have get-togethers in the first place.
Yeah,
For me, I'm a very in-person kind of a person. I like to do YouTube videos, but YouTube videos can only help you so much.
right,
And I feel like if I meet you person to person, people would get a feel for who I am, because
right,
again, I hate it when people assume that I'm just a powerlifter or I'm just a meathead, because they need to understand that there's more depth to why I am the guy that is bringing you all together. There's a reason why
right,
I want you to realize why your health is important for you. You know what
right,
I mean? Because again, you could be raising the next Sunisa Lee for all we know. But what if, because you don't think about your health or you are closed-minded to arts, you cause another individual like Sunisa Lee to not bloom, and
right,
that's not something that our great grandparents, the people who passed away in the Vietnam War want. You know what I mean? What they want is for us to be able to live a good life in America, and the best thing that we could do in their honor is to raise the best kids that we can who are
right.
at the Olympic level or at the doctorals level or just freaking drawing pictures for Disney. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
That's wonderful. I like that. Yeah. I think the page is still growing, evolving. I've taken the liberty. I know you're open-minded to it too, but I've taken the liberty to say, reach out to me personally if you want to. I mean, to the mass audience.
Hmm.
And I'm not trying to, but I think it stems from the fact that we really mean it. We want to, if any questions, great or small, it's okay to ask. If I don't know it, I'll find out what it is you're looking for. But if I can share something, then and being of value, then let's do this. And very few have done that already, which is amazing. It's refreshing. You get to know them one-on-one, even though you never shook hands and broke bread or had dinner or a beverage together. But I think it's the way of connecting. And I think, in my humble opinion, make that more visible or more accessible to members, because I really mean it when I say it. Hey, if you're a power lifter, like the guy who asked yesterday, any power lifters in here? Yeah, James Vang, he's right there. Why don't you chime in on him real quick? He's pretty cool. He's a cool cat.
I know.
To
I'm all surprised at how many people jumped on that. Everybody was
it's
jumping. I was like, whoa,
it's
how do you
like
not know James
it's
Bain?
okay. All right. Hey, to the original poster, I'm not ripping on you. I forgot your name, but I would
Yeah.
just bring that up polite, right? So, but there's a thing called a phone. You pay for a cell phone service every month. That you got data. Send me a text. Send messenger me. It's okay. Messenger James. Messenger Mark. Messenger anyone you think. George Yang and those guys who actually have done very well for themselves at the recreational personal level. Reach out to them, right? I mean, it doesn't have to talk about bodybuilding. Talk about maybe, hey, how do you go through hurdles of life? It's okay. We're not trying to make a Dr. Phil show out of this, but I mean, I think Hmong Fitness and Motivation is much more than it already is. And there's areas that we haven't even tapped into that could be just like, holy cow, this is amazing stuff, right?
Yep.
So,
And
yeah,
another thing that's good about people reaching out and talking and getting to know us and asking questions is that Hmong mentality stuff, and I feel like that's like really heavy within the Hmong community that I hope to change. Because again, a lot of people, they assume like I wouldn't be able to teach people, or people would assume that the teachings or techniques and stuff like that I teach people are fake, because they assume that I'm worried that they're gonna one day be stronger than me, and that I'm actually just doing this because I'm worried about these things, right? Or some people will assume like, because they're trying to beat me or be stronger than me, they don't want to be friends or learn from me. It's like, dude, I could care less if you want to be better than me or stronger than me at all. Because if you want to be better than me or stronger than me, it just shows how much work you're willing to put in. I'm not going to be afraid to teach you. That's how much work you
right,
want to put in. And for people to meet me in person and see that, we're genuine and that we want to teach people to be healthy and all these things, it changes the way that people look at Hmong people. Because half of the reason why people don't want to listen to me or come learn from me or even support me is because I'm Hmong. People will assume like, um, because he's Hmong, he doesn't know what he's talking about as much as a white person would or a black person would. And I've
Yeah.
had that happen plenty of times where because I'm not to that degree, they don't respect my opinion. Well, what they don't realize is the people's opinion that they respect come ask me for my opinion, if that makes sense.
It
I'm
makes total
already
sense.
beyond the level of what
Yeah.
they think is good, but because you're giving it away for free and you're trying to help out your community, people feel like you're a scammer to some degree as well. So I think, being
Yeah.
very open and talking will allow people to see that we're not like regular Hmong people where we're trying to keep our secrets to ourselves. The secret is no secret. The secret is you loving yourself. The
Yeah.
secret is these things. And if you could do that, you'll be better than me.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree with you more. I asked this many times before on the page. I'm like, well, yeah, well, if you're going to do this, give it some time. And in fact, I want you to surpass me, whatever that means to you, whatever that means in general. I want you to surpass me, and I'll be the first to say it. And that's okay, right? I think that illustrates leadership, that illustrates humility, as well as the willingness to help others. And I think that those are some of the tenets or foundations I think this page should be, and I think has been all about. And so, again, I was asked when I was to be member 900 back in the day. 900, man, I was number 900 for membership there. I mean, as far as the page member, that's a long time ago. But just glad to be there on the page and share what I can and shed light and sometimes have some fun, and that's okay too. So, I don't know, man. What do you think is next? What do you think is next for everybody? What do you think is next for content? What do you think is going to be a differentiator that we can bring to the table? I mean, wide open. This is ad hoc, man. Shooting from the hip.
Yep. So, for anybody who, because I know like randomly we'll get this where people say like the page is boring or the page could be better, the page could be like this or like that. Well, the one thing that like what you're saying is if you feel like there's a recommendation that we currently cannot do or are not reaching to your standard, then step up and show us what you're talking about. Mainly because when people give
Yes.
recommendations, I really hate it that they'll say, we need to do more get-togethers, right? Well, my question is, if we're doing this many get-togethers, in my opinion, that I'm hosting, because I know I'm there at almost every get-together, and you feel like that's not enough, why don't you host one? But when you say that to them, they get offended and they'll say, no, that's not me. I don't know enough about
It's not
health and
my
fitness,
job. It's not my
right?
job.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then what do you mean then? If you say like
Mm-hmm.
it could be better in get-togethers, when I personally feel like I've already been doing a pretty good job in that department. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It makes total sense.
So what I feel like is if people feel like they have something to offer, I don't want them to be afraid. It doesn't matter if you have knowledge of health and fitness. That's why we, the admins, are there. That's what we specialize in. If you feel like you can be a leader in a different way where you can host the city or have areas or people that you can talk to that allows us to speak or teach or things like that, that is your part in your vision on what you can do for Hmong Fitness. It doesn't always have to be, I need to be the most knowledgeable person in order to do this. If that
Right.
was the case, every single one of us wouldn't even be doing what we're doing because in our own personal field, we are the experts. But that's
Yeah.
why I also know nutrition and bodybuilding and all these other stuff. I have no idea. And you know who? If you ask me a bodybuilding question, I'm gonna shoot you to the 8 to 10 bodybuilder friends that I have on the Hmong Fitness page. Is that
Right.
simple? Whichever one of
Yeah.
those guys I feel like can handle your issues the best, I'm gonna shoot them your way. Or you
Sure.
know, does that make sense?
Makes total
Because
sense.
again, I'm not the know-all be-all. That's why the admin team is special because we all specialize in our own field and we all know
Yeah.
what it is that we know. We all bring a very big piece to the table. So if you feel like there's something that we could do better that you have knowledge on, feel free to reach out and talk to us and be more apparent. That way we can better serve people. And I feel like for me, that's one of the things that we can do a little bit better. And then number two, again, with the people who are asking very specific questions about lifting weights or wanting to get better, the best thing I can tell you is look up our resources and
Mm-hmm.
try to make those get-togethers. I'll tell you right now, I don't just go everywhere and then just start training. You know what I mean? So like when we do these get-togethers for J4 and stuff like that, it takes a lot of time and effort for me to be there to be able to teach people for free without having people to pay me $100 or $150 for the session. A lot of people don't realize that that's pretty much what I'm doing for the Hmong community, where I'm giving my expertise and my time to even do all this stuff. People don't see how much time and effort it takes for us to put in the work to even show up at the J4. You know
Right.
what I mean? So the next thing would just be when we do host stuff or when we do changes, participate. Don't just tell us to do this and then when we do it, don't show up. Don't just say we need to do more get-togethers, but don't host one or don't support the get-togethers.
Right.
And it's kind of pointless for you to say something if you're not participating, right? Or
Right.
wanting to
Right.
participate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, but James, Hmong people, they're shy.
Well, the best thing I can say is if you're shy, you know, this is what I say at my house. If we're cooking something and you're shy, then you just don't get to eat.
Yeah, you're gonna go hungry, man. That's how
You're
it
gonna
is,
go
man.
hungry.
You better
So
say
if your
something.
hunger is beyond your
Yeah.
shyness, then you'll grab a
Yes.
plate to eat.
Good point, brother. Good point. I love it, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think this is awesome. I really thank you. I think we're about an hour 10, which is holy crap. Where did the time go? We could talk all day.
We can, man, honestly.
What other add-on topics did you want to touch on by chance, bro? Anything else?
There's some. I mean, I know this. I feel like this should be like in its own topic, you know. But I guess I could just answer this really quick since there's some people who asked.
Sure.
Some people wanted to know, you know, how to get over plateaus. So if you're stuck on your bench press or squat or deadlift or building muscle, it's as simple as work harder. Do more than you've ever done before. Think about your nutrition more than you did before. Think about your recovery more than you did before. The reason why you're at a plateau is because you're either training not hard enough to reach your goals or surpass the current you from before. Because you got to remember, you're battling yourself. So if you train this hard to get to this level, then you have to train that much harder to beat your current self.
Right.
So that could be in recovery or training harder, you know, adding different new things in your training like bands and progressive overload, doing heavy negatives, training with partners that are just as strong as you or stronger than you to help spot and load, to help save you when you're trying to push past those limits that you wouldn't normally be able to pass. So when you think about plateaus, you're literally just asking yourself how to become a better person. When do you become a better person? You go to school to become smarter. You date people to learn more about what it is that they want, like the kind of people that you want to marry eventually one day. You learn more about yourself. So progressive overload is the same thing. Learn more about what you're doing, learn more about what you're not doing, and then add more of the things that you feel are going to help you reach the next level. Now, this is very broad, of course, because I don't want it to seem like I'm just trying to promote powerlifting techniques. This is, again, overload as in Muay Thai. If you want to be able to kick someone harder in the next fight and you do 500 kicks a day, maybe you need to level that up to 1,000 kicks a day.
Sure.
If you want to, you know, get stronger in powerlifting, you know, maybe you should work on your technique or do boards or these things, if that makes sense. So when it comes to overloading or plateaus, that's what I usually recommend. If you don't want to be the same person that you want to be, if you don't want to be at the same plateau that you are, then you have to become more than what you were before. Train harder, think smarter, eat harder, sleep better, all these things.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great stuff. And I could piggyback on that. That reminds me of a discussion many years ago with a director in a company I used to be with. And he asked me, it was an interview for promotion. He asked me, he goes, so Ming, let me ask you this, man. He goes, we worked together for the last 8 years. You're in business to business enterprise. And what if I said there was a position in Anchorage, Alaska, a director of IT? Would you take it? I thought for a minute. He goes, and he caught me. He goes, you hesitated. He goes, don't even answer me. And this is in the same line of what you're kind of talking about. And he said, well, you know, it's all about attitude. I can teach you to do that job. I can teach you. I can give you the manuscript on how to do that job. You hesitated, which means you're second guessing yourself already. You might say you're a business major and there's an IT spot, but he goes, if I taught you, are you willing to do it? And that still sticks with me today, James. In other words, where you want, how uncomfortable do you even want to get to go beyond that plateau? To your point, get someone stronger to help you do the loads, to help you do negatives, to, is my nutrition really on? Do I need to add 200 more grams of carbs today versus yesterday? Do I need to do this? Do I need to actually get 2 more hours of sleep and find a way to do that? All that works in concert with each other. And so my former director's comment to me still sticks in today. It's your attitude that drives it too. Okay, the doing part, like we say in the page all the time, the lifting part is easy, guys. It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. What about everything else? Where's your stress level? Where's your rest level? Where's your nutrition level? Oh, I never thought about that. I just want to go in there and get my PR. Well, that's awesome. So you got your PR. What's next? Right?
Yep.
So it's a bigger picture. So your point is spot on as well. But you're right. There's a lot more going on versus going there and grunting and turning green or purple, depending on what skin tone you have, so to speak. So.
And that's where the motivation piece that people want so much comes into play. The days that they're motivated because they feel like that, they'll work super duper hard. What happens next week when the motivation flames are dead? Are you going to come back and continue to train as hard as you did before? Most people will not want to do that because they don't want to feel that sore, beat up. Again, you're trying to break plateaus here. You're not trying to be the same person.
Right.
You're going to be a different person. You're going to feel different things.
Right. It does.
Yep.
What else, brother? Any other passing thoughts?
Man, I was just going to ask you that. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about or add to the table? Because I feel like we hammered a lot, and we can always do another one of these, if we got more people interested in our conversations,
Yeah, I wanted this conversation to be kind of broad and kind of wide, and it's okay. But I think that if we do this again, and inclusive of maybe other admins, we can get some more specific topics and share openly. And I think that, and for the audience, I'm going to shift my gear to the audience. This is really to provide some comfort in the page, right? I don't think anyone's really seen James and I interact besides in text, meaning on the page or otherwise. We don't talk to each other as often as we probably should, but James is busy. I'm busy. He's in Georgia now. I'm in Texas, but through the wonders of technology, we're able to bring this to your table or to your smartphone. And so we need to do this more, but I think I would like to eventually see these type of interactions bring in a member and just have a conversation. It's not to corner them. Just have a conversation for those who might be interested or those who might want to volunteer and say, I really want to have just 30 minutes of talking to you and James, or you, James, Mark, and just put us on and let's us talk. And I think that's going to be the next level here. But again, it's about comfort, bringing some comfort as well as some assurance. And we're human beings. We put our pants on the same way you guys do every morning. We breathe the same air you breathe. It's just a mindset, and I certainly want to evangelize saying that, again, so proud of all you've done, bro. So really am. And I watch you from a distance and I'm like, this guy's going to go places. And, I support you. My wife don't even know who you are. She's like, oh my God, look at him go. And it's okay. And I said, I told my girls, look at Uncle James. Dad, that's, my girls did this one time. They're like, Dad, that's a lot of weight, Dad. so they see your picture and they see you grunt with your mouthpiece on under a power rack. They're like, Dad, that's a lot of plates on there. That's a lot of weight. They go, yeah, I know. Uncle James is pretty special. So it's all good. Right? It's all good. It's all good. So, but thank you, man. I really appreciate this time, making the time of your busy weekend. Next time I'll be better with my time zones, huh?
Hey, you're fine. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this episode. And we hope to kind of do this again if there's of interest, and continue to hammer more issues, within the Hmong community. So we can, again, start reaching out to just the American community to extent, where it's your community, not just your ethnicity, if that makes sense. Because everybody deserves to be healthy and fit and not have to worry about underlying health issues.